This story happened in the Scottish city of Glasgow in 2015. On April 11, 2015, 24-year-old Karen Buckley went to a nightclub with her friends and never returned home. Karen was born in 1991 in the Irish city of Cork to John and Marian Buckley. She was the youngest child and only daughter among 4 children in her family. Karen graduated from St. Mary's Secondary School in Mallow, where she was described as a kind and caring person always willing to help others. Her desire to help people largely influenced her choice of profession. After finishing secondary school, Karen enrolled in the University of Limerick to study nursing. Her interest in occupational therapy led her to the Scottish city of Glasgow, where she began studying for a master's degree at Caledonian University. Karen arrived in Glasgow in January 2015 and moved into an apartment with 3 other female students who were also newcomers. On April 11, 2015, she and her flatmates went to a nightclub located about 2 kilometers from their home. They arrived at around 11:45 p.m. and had a good time. Around 1 a.m., Karen told her friends she was going to the restroom and would be back shortly. She took her purse and left, leaving her jacket on the table where the group was sitting. Her friends continued to have fun while she was gone. At some point, they realized that Karen had been gone for a while and should have returned by then, but she hadn't. Her friends searched for her in the club, but Karen was nowhere to be found. Attempts to contact her by phone also proved unsuccessful. The friends Karen came with thought she may have gone home, although it was strange that she didn't tell anyone and left her jacket behind. When they returned home, the friends realized that their assumptions were wrong. Karen wasn't there either. The only thought that came to Karen's friends' minds at that moment was that she could meet someone at the club and leave with him. It was with this thought that the girls went to their beds. Waking up around noon, Karen's neighbors were surprised to find that she had not returned home. Attempts to reach her by phone again yielded no results. Karen did not respond to messages on social media and did not even log into any of them. Although Karen's friends had only known her for a few months, they knew that this behavior was not typical of her. They did not invent another version for self-reassurance but went to the police and reported her disappearance, as well as informing the Buckley family of what had happened. The Scottish police deserve credit as they immediately began searching for Karen. Her disappearance was reported in the press and on television. Karen's parents appealed to anyone with any information about their daughter's whereabouts to contact the police. Meanwhile, detectives received footage from cameras at the club where Karen was last seen. While reviewing them, the police discovered that she had been in contact with an unknown man. 36 hours after her disappearance, on April 13th, the identity of this man was established, and he was brought in for questioning. The young man's name was Alexander Pacto, and he was 21 years old. He admitted that he had indeed met Karen that night and that they had gone back to his apartment on Dorchester Avenue, which was approximately 3 kilometers from the club. He also disclosed that they had been intimate with each other. Around 4 a.m., Karen decided to leave and go home despite his offer to stay until morning. Alexander also stated that during their intimacy, Karen had hit her head on the corner of the bed, resulting in a wound and leaving marks on the sheets. This information elicited a mixed reaction from the police. On the one hand, Pacto seemed to want to be candid. On the other hand, he seemed to be preempting the events and trying to explain what the police might find if they searched his apartment. On the same day, April 13th, a man contacted the police to report that he had found a woman's purse. Upon investigation, it turned out that he had found it in the park near the house where Alexander Pacto lived, and it was Karen's purse. It contained her phone and documents. This discovery made Pacto's version of events more plausible. It's possible that something happened to Karen after she left his apartment. Meanwhile, the search for Karen continued actively. Hundreds of police officers searched parks and forests, bodies of water, and abandoned buildings, hoping to find any clues that could help with the investigation. At this stage, Alexander Pacto was the only suspect in the eyes of the police. He was the last person who saw Karen. Investigators did not disclose any information about their suspect and kept his name a secret. But when, 2 days after Karen's disappearance, police searched his apartment and the surrounding area, journalists found out about it. Reporters from one of the newspapers talked to other residents of the building, and since then Alexander Pacto's name has ceased to be a secret. This is important, but we will come back to it later. So, the police obtained a search warrant for Pakto's apartment. The first thing that caught their attention when they entered was a strong bleach smell. They also noticed that the mattress on his bed did not match the size of the bed. Small dark red spots were found on the bed and in the bathroom, samples of which were sent for testing. A box of tools and a large amount of cleaning supplies were also found in the apartment. A police dog trained to search for bodies signaled near Pakto's car. While waiting for a search warrant for the vehicle, detectives learned that Alexander Pakto had taken his car to a salon for cleaning the day before, but apparently the service was of poor quality. During the search, the same small dark red spots were found on the inside of the passenger door, and samples of these were sent to the laboratory. With each new discovery, suspicions grew that Karen was no longer alive, but the search for her continued actively. As previously stated, journalists were able to uncover the suspect's name, and the next day, a photograph of Alexander Pakto was featured on the front page of one of the newspapers. Surprisingly, this step by the press turned out to be helpful for the investigation. A man who saw Pakto's photo in the newspaper called the police and provided some interesting information. He said that he had worked with Alexander some time ago and knows that he rents a warehouse on a farm outside Glasgow. The address of this farm is about 9 kilometers from Pakto's apartment. Any lead was important, and the obtained information was investigated. The owner of the farm confirmed that Pakto rents a storage space from him for £10 a week. This is the place and the storage space. Inside, they found a 200-liter drum containing Karen's body, which had been dissolved in caustic soda. Caustic soda is a highly reactive alkaline substance that can dissolve organic compounds. They also found a bonfire with remnants of a mattress that Pakto had tried to burn. On the same day, April 15th, he was arrested as a suspect in the case of Karen Buckley. Understanding that there were a significant amount of evidence against him, Pakto confessed to being the one who took Karen's life. However, he claimed that he did it in self-defense. Based on the evidence found by the police and the testimony of the suspect, an approximate timeline of events was compiled for the days when Pakto took Karen's life and attempted to cover his tracks. So, on the night of April 11-12, at around 1 a.m., Karen left the club. It remained unclear why she did so. Her friends claimed that there was no argument between them and that Karen said she would go to the bathroom and come back. Even if we assume that she decided to go home for some reason, it is still unclear why she left her jacket behind. Officers working on the case reviewed a total of 1,900 hours of surveillance camera footage. In one of the recordings, it was seen that Karen crossed paths with Pakto after leaving the club. After a short conversation, they walked together in the direction where his car was parked. It is believed that he offered to drive Karen to her apartment, but instead, when they got into the car, he attacked her. Pakto struck Karen 14 times on the head with a large wrench, as a result of which she died in his car. The dark red stains that the investigators found in the car turned out to be dried drops of Karen's blood, as were the stains in the bathroom and on Pakto's bed. After disposing of the girl, he began planning his next steps. First, he got rid of Karen's purse, which was later found and brought to the police. Around 2 o'clock in the morning, he arrived home. What he did next surprised the detectives greatly. He moved the body from the car to his apartment. At 8 o'clock in the morning, using his phone, he began searching the internet for information about caustic soda. He then went to a shopping center, where at 9:42, he bought 6 liters of caustic soda, a respirator, and gloves. He thought 6 liters was not enough, so on the way home, he stopped at another store and bought more caustic soda. Upon returning to his apartment, he placed Karen's body in the bathtub and tried to dispose of it. Pakto didn't live alone. His apartment neighbor was supposed to return home around 8 p.m. Realizing he wouldn't have enough time to complete his plan, he took the body out of the bathtub, wrapped it in a blanket, and hid it in his bedroom. The next day, on April 13th, he threw a wrench into the River Clyde, where divers found it. Afterwards, he went to a shopping center about 1.5 miles away from home, where he asked a consultant for help. He asked for a recommendation for a product that could remove bloodstains from a mattress. He also bought 2 padlocks. On the same day, he took Karen's mattress, bedding, and clothes to a farm, where he burned everything. On the way home, He bought a barrel to later put the body in. Around 2 p.m., he took the barrel to a rented warehouse, poured in the remaining caustic soda, locked the gate with the 2 padlocks he bought, and went home. The police visited him at his home at 6 p.m. and took him in for questioning. You already know what happened next. Despite Pacto confessing to his guilt, his motive remained unclear. He claimed he took Karen's life in self-defense during an argument that broke out in a car. But investigators did not believe this version, as it seemed like an attempt to justify his actions. Police assumed that by killing Karen and subsequently disposing of her body, Pacto attempted to cover up another crime. However, due to the degree of decomposition, experts were unable to determine if Karen had been subjected to violence before her death. In September 2015, Alexander Pacto was found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment, with the possibility of parole after 23 years. Through his lawyer, he apologized to the Buckley family, claiming to be remorseful. Pacto told his defense attorney that he was too intoxicated on the night of the incident and could not remember why he took Karen's life. It is worth noting that if he had not pleaded guilty, he would have been eligible for parole after 25 years, rather than 23.